Greetings, everyone, and welcome November the 14th, 2025. On the heels of the massive strike at Novorossiysk, which I will update you on in just a moment, Zelenskyy today and over the next few days is facing his biggest test yet, and it's decision time. How will he respond to corruption and the allegations? Secondly, mobilization. And I'm taking these references not from my opinion, but from global leaders who play a massive support role for Ukraine. If President Zelenskyy, and I am sure he will, makes the right decisions, it will even further undergird and support the fight on multiple fronts, not only against Russia, but breaking free of that Soviet world and moving towards the West. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We need to jump into this right now. Now, last night, I basically was dropping a video, and that's why it's important to have the notification bell on as Ukraine was striking Novorossiysk. And I told you that I thought it would be one of the largest strikes to date on Russian oil and port infrastructure. It's turning out that that is becoming an accurate statement. If you missed that, you can go back and see that video from last night. Reuters now reporting that the Ukrainian night attack was a major strike on global oil exports, affecting it by 2%. One strike, the port of Novorossiysk, from which 2.2 million barrels per day of oil are exported, 2% of the oil supply. Reuters also dropping how the price changed the moment of that strike, and the main supplier or a company there, Russian company Transneft, also was forced to stop deliveries. This was a big strike, and this is great news for Ukraine as they continue to hit the infrastructure of Russia. Military targets, not buildings like Russia hit overnight, killing multiple people, including a pregnant lady. Ukraine still searching for people under the rubble, even as we are giving you this update. Now, in regard to the thumbnail and the title, we have renewed support coming for Ukraine from Germany. Also, we have the coalition with the Baltics purchasing through the Pearl program. I think it was 500 million worth of weapons to supply Ukraine air defense. And last night I was playing the video showing how much air defense was going off during that massive attack on Ukraine. If you missed that, you can go see it in Kyiv and why the supplies are so important. But with the support comes a warning. And this is the decision point that President Zelenskyy is facing. Politico reporting that German coalition ups military aid to Ukraine. Mertz's coalition has approved a sharp increase in support for Kyiv in 2026. Aid to Ukraine will rise to 11.5 billion euros, the highest level of German military support since the start of the conflict. This decision was reached during nighttime budget negotiations that lasted until early morning. Germany will allocate an additional 3 billion to strengthen the Ukrainian army. This is a massive inflow and like shot in the arm to benefit Ukraine, to increase their supply, not only with weapons that they need, but the encouragement that they need right now with so much unfolding politically, especially with the problems that Ukraine is facing, whether it is mobilization or these corruption scandals that are very close to the president's office. Germany, Merz here in the picture, and Donald Tusk from Poland both have addressed these. So this is why we have support and we have a warning. Let's listen first to Merz. And to complete the picture, I would also like to add that today I had a lengthy telephone conversation, and I asked the Ukrainian president to ensure that young men from Ukraine in particular do not come to Germany in large numbers, in increasing numbers, but that they serve their country. That's where they're needed. And in Germany, transfer payments for these refugees will be in such a way that the incentives to work are greater than the incentive to remain in the transfer system. So we are also planning specific changes here. Okay, so for me, this is a great statement here because it says, listen, we're going to support you, we're going to supply you, but you need to fix your mobilization. This bad image that Ukrainians are fleeing, especially young men, they need to be there supporting. It doesn't mean they go to the zero line. They can be in the back line, the rear line, working civilian jobs, but it must change. You could see the Germans clapping. I completely agree with that. So in addition to the support comes guidance. And this is why Zelensky's facing big decisions. Another one coming from Donald Tusk. Take a listen to this. I warned President Zelenskyy. We have known each other well since the first days of his presidency, even before anyone thought that this full-scale war would take place, and that one of the key narratives of Russian and pro-Russian parties inside Europe is the narrative that Ukraine is a corrupt state. And for Russians, it was always a strong argument that this is the kind of country Ukraine is. Do not take them seriously. They are the most corrupt country in the world. And some people believe that Ukraine is even more corrupt than Russia. I told President Zelenskyy to be careful about every single sign of corruption in his environment because it is crucial for his reputation. And today, as you well know, this pro-Ukrainian enthusiasm is diminishing in Poland and the world. People are tired of this war and these expenses, and it's not so easy to maintain the support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. I talk about this very often, and that it's in Poland's interest for Ukraine to be an independent state, a state with institutions, and an honest state. This is completely beyond dispute. And we want to continue to support Ukraine, and we will support Ukraine in its defense against Russia because it also defends Poland. It will be increasingly difficult to convince various partners to show solidarity around Ukraine if corruption facts emerge. Okay, so as you were listening to this, do not be discouraged, but be encouraged. This is the exact message that the world needs to hear. And today, I'm happy to report and to show Mertz talking about mobilization. Keep your boys at home. We're going to support you. We're going to send you aid. We're going to send you military equipment. We're going to participate in programs. We're standing with you in this fight against the evil empire and that Kremlin evil, that Putin war machine. Then Tusk comes along and says, we're standing with you. We're not going anywhere, but make sure the corruption doesn't overtake you. Fight against it. Clean it out. Do not let that reputation follow you and haunt you. Cut it off. Destroy it so you can move forward. Guys, this is a good day. And these are the very statements that need to be made by world leaders like Mertz and Tusk. Zelenskyy will come right along, I know, and make the right decisions. This is good, but it is decision time. Now, I will tell you that Russia cranking up its propaganda as I close out this update. Sergei Lavrov, Moscow, they are pushing the nuclear buttons every day. Why? Because Trump still releases information. We're going to test this. We're going to test that. What's his name? Hegseth out at the Pentagon, screwing on the Department of War signs, and we're prepping for the war, and we're going to do this and that. Now we've got Operation in the South. Lavrov says, hey, we're going to do what we need to do in regard to nuclear weapons, and we'll follow right along with Putin's plan. Maria Zakharova, she is the foreign ministry spokesperson for Sergei Lavrov. She's continuing to rip today. I'm not even translating it because it's so nasty. Western Russophobia and Ukrainian corruption. She says they're the cancers that are on this planet. And finally, Nikolai Patrushev, he is the Secretary of Russia's Security Council. He warned today that any effort to exclude Russia from a global financial system would provoke a massive response within the following 48 hours. So this is where we're at. We're at a place where decision points are coming in this war. The war is raging. Kyiv hit hard. Novorossiysk smashed. Affecting the global output 2% with one strike. But this is the test. How are you going to deal with mobilization? How are you going to deal with the morale in your troops? How are you going to deal with defensive positions like Pokrovsk? And what are we going to do to make sure that Ukraine is cleaning out and fighting against corruption and propaganda at the same time, fighting for Russia and fighting against Russia, rather, and fighting for their future and freedom? This is where we're at today. It's about 1:30 p.m. as we're recording this Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. in Ukraine. Be blessed, and we'll be back soon. Mearsheimer said something today that I don't really like. Well, part of it, but I'm working on something for you. Be blessed. Make sure that notification bell is on.